Oh, man. Underrated game of the week. We have an infatuation with the NFC West here on the show. I know they're not the most lovable teams by the casual public, but man, we just love it. It's chaotic in a way. Some underrated teams and talent littered across this division. Seahawks traveled to Arizona to play the Cardinals. Cardinals coming off of a tough loss against the Vikings last week. Seahawks coming off of a close win last week against the Jets. Cardinals are 2.5-point home favorites. Point totals only at 44.5. Our model is showing a 2-point spread for the Arizona Cardinals rather than a 2.5-point spread. This is going to be fun. It could be ugly, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. These two teams are going head to head in a rat race for this division. I mean, all teams in this division are either at or below 500. It truly is amazing how this division is going to shake out. Seahawks are 7-5. Cardinals are 6-6. I misspoke. I meant the Seahawks are the only team above 500. Mm-hmm. So the Cardinals need this win desperately bad. Cardinals a favorite. Seahawks coming off a big win. Seahawks did win the last matchup between these two teams earlier in the season, BJ. Jackson Smith-Njigba has come onto the scene. DK Metcalf is a little banged up, but I expect him to play nonetheless. Kenneth Walker is banged up too. We'll be monitoring his status, but assuming he can go or Zach Charbonnet is going to take over that backfield, I don't expect much of a drop off there. They're only, like you mentioned earlier before the show started, they're only averaging 88 yards per game on the ground. So it's not like the run game is a huge factor anyway.
No, but they throw it a million times.
They do. They're first in pass rate over expected. So no surprise there, especially for a guy like Ryan Grubbs as the play caller who essentially was brought in to enhance the passing game. So big game for the NFC West. A lot of divisional implications here. Cardinals need this win as they host the Seahawks. Seahawks need this win to stay atop. So as we look at this game, BJ, you like the Seahawks to win, to cover and win. Mm-hmm. I like the Cards to hold their ground at home. Now, again, this is essentially a pick'em in my mind. I mean, I know the point spread is 2.5, but it's like it's a pick'em. It's a coin flip in my mind. So, both teams hit or miss, I would say. I can't sit here and say one team is playing really bad, one team is playing really good, and vice versa, because both teams, they could go out there and beat mostly everybody on any given day, but on any other given day, they can go out there and lose to anybody. And so, I mean, you look at the Cardinals last week, they could have won that game if they were a little bit more aggressive and went for it in the fourth down in the red zone at the end of the game. And we're talking about a potential win against a 9-3 Vikings team with a little bit more aggressive success in week 13. Seahawks, they've been hit or miss. Their defensive woes have been the biggest issue. Also, one of the more unluckier teams with just the way that plays turn out. I mean, you see these like wild turnovers that are just like, how the hell did that even happen? But nonetheless, BJ, I expected this total to be a bit higher. I thought this was going to be more of a offensive-driven game, just given the status of the Seahawks defense. I mean, they're boasting a 19th overall in EPA per play allowed, 18th overall in success rate allowed. If you pivot over to Arizona's defense, 25th overall in EPA per play allowed, 32nd overall in success rate allowed.
It's really good.
Yeah, so both teams are, really Arizona's just bottom third of the league. Seahawks are bottom half. I mean, It could be ugly in the best way possible.
Well, I'll tell you this, the game earlier in the year, probably says hi, everybody. The game earlier in the year, 16-6.
Lovely.
That is the nastiest score I've ever heard in my life. So that's why I feel like it's the total's not as high. But I think the opposite is going to happen this game. This is their second round of each other. I think that they're going to be able to generate a lot more explosive plays. They've seen the defenses react to their respected offenses. So it will not be another 16-6 one, I think.
Yeah, it's tough because it's really hard to beat a team twice. And you see that in divisional games across the board. Unless you're a juggernaut, it's really hard to beat a team twice. And so That's one reason you could argue for the Cardinals just irregardless of any numbers or any injuries or any gut feel about this game. It's just really hard to beat a team twice. But the Seahawks, one thing they do have going for them is the Cardinals run a lot of too high, and so when you defenses that run too high, when Geno faces those teams, excuse me, rambling over here, he's extremely successful. In fact, Geno Smith versus too high coverage, 7.68 yards per attempt, 6th among all qualifying QBs, 71% completion percentage, and 7.7% completion percentage over expected, first in the league. So Geno Smith could come in here and have an absolute day now that he's comfortable in this new offense. We got to talk about that too. That's one thing is like this is a first-year offensive play caller, and Geno Smith's first year in this system. There's a lot of growing pains, and you still see that as the offense continues to evolve throughout the year. Jackson Smith-Njigba didn't really come onto the scene until halfway through the season, and he's playing great football.
Mm-hmm.
So different game, different schematics. I'm sure there's going to be different tendencies that each team leans towards in this game. Now, for the Cardinals, you can easily pass the ball against this team. I mean, 30th overall in passing yards per attempt, 20th overall in passing yards per game allowed. And I mean, rushing stats are not much better. I mean, they're averaging 153 yards given up on the ground per game too. So, I mean, the Seahawks, if they're aggressive and they game plan right, they could exploit this Cardinals defense. But Kyler Murray, hit or miss as well. We've talked about him plenty of times on the show. He's had games where he's ripped up the 49ers and had a day. And then he's had games like the 16-6 loss against the Seahawks earlier this year, where he just decides not to show up to the games. Maybe, the Call of Duty narrative is in play again. So, but
when's a double XP weekend, he'll play bad.
Yeah. So you never know, man. You never know what this offense, they're also growing and evolving. Just with Jonathan Gannon, this is second year. It's hard to say that this offense and discern what they're going to do when they have young guys on the field as well. Marvin Harrison Jr. Being the big name that is hit or miss as well. James Conner, though, is having a career year in this Cardinals offense, and I really think they're going to try and funnel this offense through him. Seattle is 27th overall in rushing yards per game. They give 145 yards per game on the ground. So I can see him easily hosting the Seahawks and trying to funnel this offense through James Conner. And by doing so, by default, they want to keep Geno Smith and the offense off of the field. And then when they are on the field, they're going to try and push them to make bigger plays in a quicker manner and kind of try and put them in a bad spot at first to open up the game. So I like the Cardinals here. I do not trust their defense, but I think their offense, if they can figure it out and if they come in with the right game plan, I think they can absolutely pace this game and beat the Seahawks outright and really make a mess of this division. BJ, you like the Seahawks here, though, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to like the Seahawks in this game. We just mentioned Geno Smith versus too high, this offense and its evolution into the game. The fact that the Cardinals defense is really, really bad in a lot of facets. So elaborate that. Do you think that this game is going to rely on the success of Geno Smith and company on the offensive side of the ball, or do you think there's a chance that this defense, especially when you have a coach like Mike McDonald, who this defense hasn't been that great, but the head coach is really a good defensive mind.
Yeah.
So do you think they can come into your game plan and stop Kyler Murray and the Cardinals?
It's always difficult to think that you can really game plan against a mobile quarterback. So I think that they're at a disadvantage with that. But the Seahawks have shown that they can't run the ball. They're averaging, I think, under 100 yards a game.
Yeah.
Like under 90, I think it's 88. So, they throw the ball a shit ton. They're going to need to. And I think that they can expose this Cardinals defense, like you were elaborating earlier on their scheme with JSN trending up. DK hopefully is not too banged up. I will say one thing. If I were them, I would abandon the run game completely and just have a screen game be an extension of the running games. If that was me, that's what I do in Madden. But this game, like you said at the beginning, it's to pick them with these guys. But I do like Seattle to come in here and kind of assert their dominance in this division. I think that this is the week where they can really provide that separation.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to it. I really want the Cardinals to win. I confidence they can come out and make a mess of this division, but Seahawks, I think absolutely have a great chance to win this game as well. So, it should be a fun game. It might be ugly in the best way possible, but fun nonetheless. So,